Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off today. Thank you very much for starting your day with us. We are going to begin our show with the ongoing diplomatic firestorm between the United States and Europe over the future of Greenland. President Trump is escalating his rhetoric over his desire to take over the resource-rich Danish territory, despite Denmark and Greenland insisting it is not for sale. In an exclusive phone interview with NBC News, the president refused to rule out using military force to seize the Arctic island. He also did not back down from his threat to impose additional tariffs on 8 European countries if the territory is not sold to the U.S. by February 1st. It is a position that's causing alarm across Europe and NATO, with leaders scrambling to respond. Nevertheless, the president is expected to repeat his message to delegates when he travels to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland later today. Well, last night, the president explained why he thinks the U.S. needs Greenland.
We have to have it. They have to have this done. They can protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but they don't even go there. And, you know, because the boat went there 500 years ago and then left, that doesn't give you title to property.
In a few moments, we will discuss the potential impact of these tariffs with Duncan Edwards. He is the CEO of Transatlantic Trade Association, British American Business. And before that, though, we are going to go to NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumback. Gary, always great to have you. So as we heard there, the president not backing down. What more did he tell NBC News about his plans for the territory and this tariff threat for Europe across the board?
Yes, Savannah, the president clearly not going down without a fight on this particular topic. He says he absolutely needs Greenland for the national security of the United States. He says he wants to build the Golden Dome missile defense system, much like what Israel has, and that it's vital to have Greenland to create that for the U.S. He also says Europe should focus on Ukraine and Russia and not Greenland. And he says he absolutely plans to follow through on those tariff threats. Again, he said he's threatening 10% tariffs on 8 EU countries, and that could go up to 25% by June 1st if this deal is not done by that point. In response, the EU is planning counter tariffs on things like Boeing airplanes and bourbon and car parts. Savannah.
Gary, the president has also reacted to a text message exchange between him and the Norwegian prime minister. And it looks like he's linking these Greenland threats to being snubbed for the Nobel Peace Prize, sort of saying, well, I tried to go the peaceful route, doesn't matter anymore. Tell us a little bit more about it, what exactly he said and what the president has said in response to these comments coming out.
It really is fascinating here, Savannah. So much of the diplomacy on this topic is happening over text message via world leaders. He said, quote, considering your country has decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for stopping 8 wars, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace. He says he believes he's done more for NATO than any other person in history. And because of that, he says NATO should do something for him and in turn give him Greenland. But while he's texting things like that to world leaders, that's not exactly what he's saying to the American public. Here's what he had to say last night.
I don't care about the Nobel Prize. If anybody thinks that Norway doesn't control the Nobel Prize, they're just kidding. They have a board, but it's controlled by Norway, and I don't care what Norway says. But I really don't care about that.
The president here putting decades-long relationships on the line internationally, all for pushing something that the American people largely don't want to happen. 86% in a recent CBS poll say they don't want military intervention in Greenland. Savannah.
Gary, the president also, it looks like he's posting his own private messages from other leaders on social media. That includes French President Emmanuel Macron, NATO Secretary General as well. What do these messages say? And just how concerned is Europe right now? Like, walk us through the domino effect here that we could see, especially when it comes to NATO allies.
It really is fascinating to see sort of how the sausage is made here among conversations between massive world leaders in this world. It's very rare to see this. President Macron saying he's trying to lavish him with praise, saying he's doing great work on Syria and with Iran, but then saying, quote, I do not understand what you are doing on Greenland, and suggesting setting up meetings when he goes to Davos later today to try to get everyone to the same table to talk about this topic in person. The head of NATO doing very similar, talking about how he's lavishing with praise and then saying, I'll do whatever it takes to help you, committing to find a way forward on Greenland. Savannah.
Gary, as always, thank you very much for your reporting, and thanks for kicking us off this hour. Let's now bring in Duncan Edwards to talk about the president's threat to impose these additional tariffs. Duncan, good morning. So first, just your reaction to this announcement by President Trump, and walk us through the impact you see potential here these additional tariffs could have, especially on the British and American transatlantic trade. I know that that's what you focus on.
Yes, it is. And for British companies that were wondering whether 2026 would be as disruptive as 2025, they now have their answer. And of course, this adds to a long list of issues that the UK and the US are trying to negotiate at the moment. There was a trade agreement announced back in May, the economic prosperity deal, which still isn't finished. So more than half of that agreement is still yet to be negotiated. There was a technology prosperity deal negotiated when the president was in London in September. That hasn't been negotiated. In fact, negotiations on that have been abandoned for now. And then there's a pharmaceutical deal, which was announced in December, and that too has not yet been completed. So there's a lot of unfinished business, which of course adds to uncertainty for businesses that are trying to trade across the Atlantic at the moment.
Duncan, Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer said yesterday that a trade war was in no one's interest, and also downplayed possible retaliation from the UK. Let's play a little bit of what he said first.
A tariff war is in nobody's interests. And we have not got to that stage, and my focus, therefore, is making sure we don't get to that stage.
Do you think the UK would eventually, escalate to retaliation if the president follows through with his threat?
Well, it's a possibility, but we hope not. So certainly at this stage, we don't think there's any place for tariffs. I mean, basically, if tariffs are bad for both economies, then why would you willingly impose them on yourself and on your own companies? So we hope that reciprocal tariffs are not introduced either by the UK or the EU. And by the way, there's quite a long time still to go until the 1st of February. So we expect continued negotiation, continued diplomacy. Everyone's going to be in Davos this week. And we hope that some form of solution will emerge from the snowy slopes of Switzerland, which allows the president to back off from this ridiculous threat.
Duncan, you mentioned hopefully the UK doesn't, hopefully the EU doesn't. Well, on the other hand, the EU is said to at least be mulling retaliatory tariffs up to $107 billion worth of U.S. imports, and also considering something that's never been used before. It's kind of known as the bazooka option that ultimately restricts U.S. companies from accessing the European market altogether. I know the UK not part of the EU, and I know that you really focus on these British-American relations, but you're obviously an expert in the space. Could something like that almost have like a contagion effect on transatlantic trade with Britain? And what do you think that would mean more broadly between the U.S. and the EU?
Well, I can understand why the EU is preparing its so-called bazooka. There's no point in going into negotiation with a gun that isn't loaded. So I understand why they're doing that, but we really hope that they don't. Trade whilst the tariffs from last year are unhelpful, trade across the Atlantic is actually in pretty good shape, and so we don't want any escalation of this dispute. And certainly the bazooka would be again something that the US would have to respond to in turn.
Duncan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your expertise. It's helpful to our understanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it is another day of freezing temperatures for millions of Americans. Might not have to tell you that. You are about to see drone footage. This is of Interstate I-96. This is just southwest of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Officials say snowy conditions caused a chain reaction pileup here on 196 where more than 100 vehicles smashed into each other, including more than 30 semi-trailer trucks. State police say so far there are several injuries, but no reported deaths. Well, the snow is combining with frigid cold stretching from Florida to the Northeast. Meteorologist Andrea Romero is here with more of what we all need to know as much of the country is in winter's icy grip. We certainly are here, Andrea. It's time for our forecast. Good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. Winter does not want to let go of that grip that it has across the country. We can see this dangerous cold temperatures, a straight shot from the Arctic. It's spilling into the lower 48s. Over 40 million people will be impacted by some sort of cold weather advisory this morning, stretching all the way from the Great Lakes down into Florida. In fact, if we take a look at the frigid morning that we have in Florida right now, we're looking at temperatures in Orlando in the 30s. A normal low is usually around 49 degrees. So we're below average with those freezing temperatures. We have some freeze warnings in effect stretching into southern Georgia. And of course, the bitter cold temperature that we have over the Great Lakes in the Midwest over into the Northeast this morning. So we're looking at wind chills that are sub-zero across the area. And this cold weather will continue today. Highs only in the teens, maybe perhaps up to 20 in Chicago with 22 as the high degree. But of course, the wind chill will make it feel a lot colder throughout the day. And into tonight, we're also looking at really cold temperatures. This bitterly cold will continue through tonight into tomorrow morning. So as far as the precipitation, we have this next round of snow as the Clipper system drops and moves across the northern plains. We have these intense lake effect snow bands that are setting up and continue to just dump a lot of snow over downwind area from Ontario, Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. We're talking about accumulations in some area up to 2 to 4 feet that we're expecting. And this snow will linger across the Great Lakes for the next couple of days. We have 1 million of people impacted with these winter weather alerts. And of course, that bullseye continues to be there in the northern part of New York, where we're looking at the possibility of up to 4 feet of snow. We do get a brief relief from the cold temperatures from today into tomorrow, possibly into Wednesday, but then that cold temperature continues to come down, and that will be for the weekend. And that's going to set us up. Now, if it wasn't for the cold, this would be the headline story. And that's the possibility of a weekend winter storm. It's a storm that's going to develop over the Rockies and the plains. The wintry mix is going to affect the southern plains. It's going to be stretching from the plains into the mid-Atlantic by Saturday. And we can see the scope of this storm is going to be bringing a combination of snow up into the northeast, ice in the mid-Atlantic, stretching all the way through into parts of the Gulf states. We have that bitterly cold air that we'll also be dealing with into the Gulf Coast. So we're looking at the possibility of power outages with lots of ice stretching with the storm across the area.
Oof, and that can be dangerous for sure, something for people to pay attention to. It's really something how much of the country is dealing with these freezing temperatures.
It's incredible. We have most of the country, except for the West. The West is actually dealing with warm temperatures. We have that high ridge set up across that area, but the rest of the country, we're just dealing with below average temperatures, and it just doesn't want to go away.
All right, thank you. See you in a little bit. A Minneapolis church is stepping up to help thousands of families who are too afraid to leave their own homes for even a trip to the grocery store. Heidi Wigdahl from our NBC affiliate in Minneapolis reports.
When a call for help went out,
where'd you shop today?
Minnesota
Holy cow.
answered.
My neighbors need my help.
At Iglesia Dios Habla Hoy, or DHH Church in South Minneapolis.
People walked in the door, so what do we do? Said, grab a bag and start emptying it out. So
Hundreds of volunteers are organizing donations.
Do you want to put granola bars in with cookies or?
That will be delivered to families too scared to leave their homes.
They're afraid to go out. They not going to work. And some of them are starving.
Pastor Sergio Amezcua started the food drive when ICE agents first arrived in December.
Rice, beans.
The church is distributing up to 70,000 pounds of food each week.
It looks like they're responding to a hurricane catastrophe, but it is a mental catastrophe what the government is doing with us in Minnesota.
Donations like diapers come in response to the people Pastor Amezcua meets.
I got a mother that told me the other day that she was recycling the diapers. She was washing the diapers and I said, no.
So far, they've been able to help 14,000 families, but around 25,000 families are registered. Those affected include citizens and residents legally here.
From a conservative pastor, what Donald Trump and the White House is doing is horrible, and we feel betrayed by him.
When Pastor Amezcua realized food banks are closed on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, he called for help.
The more we can do for each other, the better.
In a matter of hours, the community responded.
And our immigrant community and Latinos, especially in Somalis, are going through hell And that's not the America that people that we know.
But this
Show up and see if you can help.
is the Minnesota he knows.
This is one way that takes no skill, just takes showing up. And I think we got to keep showing up for stuff.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.